We've been sitting here with Mavericks owner Mark Cuban discussing the report that the NBA released about the investigation into his franchise and really what Commissioner Adam Silver called, quote, heartbreaking details of how some of the women there were treated, what happened there over the past 2 decades. So one part of this is what happened, being transparent about it, apologizing to the people involved, but one of the other parts about it is going forward. What do you do to fix that? And the next step for that, we're bringing in the Mavericks' new CEO, Cynthia Marshall. You were hired after the initial Sports Illustrated report came out. And I want people to know just sort of how good your resume is. You had a long and distinguished career at AT&T. You managed your own consulting firm. You had a ton of credibility going into this. So I want to know how careful you were about putting your credibility on the line for him and for this organization.
I was very careful. My values matter, and so I wanted to make sure I wasn't walking into something that really could not be fixed, and where, make sure I wasn't working for an owner that didn't share the same values that I share. And fortunately, I found out in talking to him and spending a lot of time with him, we shared the same values. And so it was, and in talking to some of the women there before I left his office, I said, I want to do this.
You did talk to the women there. You were telling me that the minute you started working there, it was like the floodgates opened. There hadn't been a woman in power, frankly, for a lot of these women to talk to at all. And as soon as they saw you in that position and realized you were genuine and you actually wanted to make changes, they started telling you everything. What was that like?
Everything. And in fact, literally when I was leaving Mark's office that first day, 2 women stopped to talk to me. Then when I got back the next day, people were just coming to me.
What did you hear that stood out to you as the most egregious, the thing that bothered you the most that you wanted to fix?
What bothered me the most is just the lack of HR responses, the lack of leadership responses. I was hearing about things that, frankly, action should have been taken and people should have been terminated on the spot. And you talked about 2 of them earlier, the condom situation and then the situation with domestic violence. That's just cause for immediate dismissal. And so just the lack of responses and just really a horrible culture. And Mark had already warned me, that was my mandate, to transform the culture.
And how much of a mandate did you give her in terms of changes she was able to affect, people she was allowed to hire, salaries she was allowed to change?
I'll let you answer that.
Yeah, our deal was you own it, I run it.
It's a pretty good deal.
And he stuck with that. He stuck with that. He said, you do whatever you need to do, whatever resources you need, whatever changes you need to make at any level. I trust you, you do it. And in fact, when I laid out my 100-day plan very early on, he didn't even want to see it. He said, I trust you.
Okay, but isn't that how you got into this position in the first place?
Yep.
So shouldn't you say, yes, I want to see it, I want to see everything?
The difference was that I didn't really interview Tradema.
Right.
Tradema was there and just continued. I got the chance to talk to Cint. And I've sat and met with Cint more times in the 7 months than I did in the first 15 years. And so we got to talk a lot. But it was after the talking that her 100-day plan came to fruition.
And in fact, we put a basketball court literally in our office, and people laugh at it. And I don't know if Mark really knows this, but that basketball court was really for Mark and to send him a message that we are the basketball team too. And so we're going to invest in this too, just like you told us, because the employees complained a lot that they never saw him. So we put the court there too and said, okay, when he comes in here, he'll come in, it's the court, and so he can, make a few baskets and hang out with us too, so you didn't know that.
Didn't know that.
Because he wasn't there, but it's different, it's very different now.
And that's significant, by the way. I mean, you're joking around. It's significant because I think the same way people will say, come on, how did he not know about a lot of this stuff when they read this report? But you're telling me there was so much separation.
Well, there was separation, and also if you complain a few times and nothing happens, you stop complaining. And that's what happened with a lot of the women. The environment said, for the most part, we don't want to hear it. And so at some point, you stop talking. And then when you have, for the most part, all men in leadership, they don't see any women, so then you believe, and it was true at the time, then women aren't valued, and that this is not a friendly place for women. And so then people start to shut down. And so they started talking to me about the fact that they didn't see Mark, the fact that we didn't have women in leadership, the fact that we had communication issues. We didn't have, it was a kind of fear. People were fearful of somebody they didn't even know because of things that were being told to them. So we had a lot to change.
Yeah.
A lot
And
to change.
you mentioned your 100-day plan.
Yes.
Of the changes you've made already, what do you think are the most significant?
Well, the plan was in 4 pieces. So to model zero tolerance, we put an ethics line in place above and beyond what the NBA has done. We revamped our code of conduct. We put everyone through respect in the workplace training, and we've taken some action to show that we are about zero tolerance. And I'm real excited about the fact that 47% of our leadership team are women.
I mean, that's literally
Yes.
a change from
Yes.
0%.
Yes.
So that's a pretty big difference.
And 1/3 people of color. So we have a very diverse leadership team.
I know that you think you still have room to go. The
Yes.
investigation and the report laid out you have room to go. What is the most important to you in the future that you want to do?
I want to make sure it's sustainable. I want to make sure that people know that they matter and that they are speaking up. The speak up culture is really, really big for me.
So, Mark, sort of speaking to the other 29 owners in the NBA who maybe when this Sports Illustrated article came out about you, maybe hurried and rushed to their business office. Are we okay? Are we good? Anything I should know? How much deeper do you recommend your cohorts go with this?
You know, you have to dig in. You know, you have to sit there in the middle. And look, what Cint did was the perfect response. You have to sit down and talk to people that you typically might not have spoken to. And you also have to recognize that they're not going to be forthright with you. Because if you're the owner of the team, people might not always feel comfortable. And so you've got to find somebody, and it may be, you know, we had to bring people in from the outside to talk to everybody in addition to Cint speaking to them. And it may well be, you know, it's a smart business move to bring somebody in from the outside, not in response to a problem, but proactively to make sure that there's not a problem brewing.